All right, guys. 2 minutes left. IAE stream will begin shortly. Jack here with Little Jack Plays on YouTube. This is a great day. Today starts the IAE and I'm so excited. I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait. By the way, I saw already... let me turn on my camera here. Woo! The sun is coming in here. I need to blind my windows. It's too bright. And you know what, guys? I forgot my Star Citizen hat. Awesome. Way better. By the way, I saw already the first items in the store. War Bond items, I think, as well. I need to check on it later. One minute left. All right. It starts.
I like how we're on the show floor. Very exciting.
Says everything's good? You sounded really... Hold on.
Isn't that white light supposed to be
It's
red?
all right. Let it keep going.
I'm pretty sure that white light should be red.
I'm just going to double check.
On the big one.
Get an hour in. It's like, no, we didn't.
Keep it recording.
On the big
recording.
Camera, the one that's higher.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know
up there?
Yeah. Because all the others are red.
Yeah. Okay.
I like it.
Like it's like a red field. You're not allowed this side of the.
Air shield.
Yeah. Oh, an air
All right.
shield.
So Tom, we're not going to do a formal intro of this. We're going to do kind of a cold open kind of thing. So we just start with cutting, and then I'll do the intro after we're done with like the first talking point.
So,
to make you
how
look-
do we defeat Superman?
How do we kill Superman?
Yeah.
Must kill Superman.
I can't. The cradle. I can't always.
Isn't it that? You do that. You're like talking like that. And then
Show me the 4 shots real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I feel like we should just have that.
All right. I just want to make sure the Chiron was on all 3.
That's a really good
All right,
point.
can we swap?
I like to see my face.
Let's not start on the wide, at least for this. All right, so what does make a good spaceship? Just in general, what makes a good spaceship?
Unequivocally, the interior layout of the ship.
Just straight up, it is. It's the interior layout.
Hang on though. Does that just discount single seat ships? Are they just not good spaceships?
Well, they're fighters.
They're terrible.
They're
They've
smaller.
got a great layout. It's
There's,
just
there's
the
less
seats.
to think about.
Fighters are still spaceships, though.
I
They're not
think-
important. It's the big things.
I think
it's
the
big
question
ships
the
that
question
you can
should
live
be
out
like
of.
the question should be what's the best spaceship for what you want to do? That's the better question.
Well, we'll get to that question. Geez, we just got
You are-
started here.
okay.
But in general, what makes a good spaceship? So we have the internal layout. You got to be able to
Absolutely.
Got to be able to find your way through it.
It has to make sense. Everything has to feel like it's in the right place without being spaghetti
It's got
junction.
to be believable. I think that's the
Yeah.
the thing that sums it up for me is that kind of covers like the layout, the functionality, the visuals, believability. Like when it comes to
Could exist.
yeah, could exist. It things feel like they're in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
The Starfarer, basically. You're just describing the Starfarer.
Perfectly.
everyone, I still struggle to find my way around that ship. I'm the one that looks after it, and I still, to this day, cannot get to the crew deck without spending like 5 minutes going around the
easy.
wrong way.
So you're the one to blame. Press
No
it.
clip. Yeah, there's no clip straight up to it. It's pretty much what I end up doing most of the time.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate trying to get up there.
We've got interior layout. What else makes a good spaceship?
Got to look good.
Got to look
Yeah.
good.
It doesn't have to, like, looking good's relative though, because it's different people's opinion. Like,
Subjective.
Argo is by
Yeah.
far the best looking manufacturer. I love that big, bright
That's a
orange.
hot take.
That's
Argo,
a-
It's just like their
best-looking
colour.
manufacturer. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, that's
hot take,
design
hot colour.
language. That's like solid design language right there.
Yeah.
You know what you're looking at with an
Yeah.
Argo ship.
I think it
That's why
communicates
it's
Sitting
its
here
intent.
wearing orange
Yeah.
right now.
He's repping Argo orange.
Yeah.
I feel like you're a ringer here for Argo. Okay, all right. So it's got to look good, but can a good spaceship look bad? I mean, can a good-looking spaceship be a bad-looking spaceship?
It can be like ugly in a sense, right?
Like Nostromo is not
yeah.
a great-looking,
Well, it's like brutal.
aesthetically
It's
it's
brutal, industrial, right? And that, I think that can be iconic. and
Again-
that can look good, right?
I think
in a
it's led by its
certain way.
function, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
if you've got something that is, you know, a big workhorse, an Argo ship, you don't expect it to be like super sleek and organic. Whereas if you've got something that's, you know, a fighter or, you know, something that's, you know, like a racing ship or something, you want it to look sleek and feel
So believable.
Do you
So
feel
it
like you
has to
want
be
the ship to
believable.
have a character, like an identity that's very like obvious when you look at it?
I feel when it comes to our project, it's really important that our manufacturers don't merge into to one.
So the
And
manufacturers
our
have the
manufacturers have their identity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then within that, you've got like a subclass of like what the functionality is. Like if we were doing a like I say an industrial ship that was made by Origin, you wouldn't expect it to be like an 890 with a laser beam in front of it.
Yeah.
You'd want it to still feel.
But you would
890 with a freaking laser beam.
Freaking
on the
laser
foil.
beam. I mean, 890 should have sharks. So
But you would immediately want to recognise its origin still.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
fine
yeah.
for it to be industrial, civilian, combat, all having a very obvious direction that the visuals go, but at the same time you still want all of the manufacturers to immediately be recognisable from each other.
So internal layout, you got to be able to find your way throughout the ship. You can get to where you're going efficiently. It's got to look cool, not necessarily look pretty, but look like stylish, iconic. It's got to something that immediately resonates with you. Anything else? Looks, getting around inside. What about performance? Does this matter? Does it?
Doesn't matter to everyone.
Dave Colson, does performance of the spaceship matter?
I mean, yeah, obviously, but it's also like doesn't matter to everyone because there's a certain place in my heart for like the 890 where I just like the image of like living this luxury lifestyle.
Space yacht.
But
and
that's
I don't
that's
care what
yeah, but
its
that's
performance is.
that delivers what it laid out to deliver. Like its sole purpose is to be a luxury ship.
It's true.
And it performs very well at being a luxury ship.
Yeah.
So, I think like it kind of goes without
performance
saying.
means
that-
different things in that context, though, right?
Well,
Yeah.
performance means different things based on what the ship we're talking about is. So in terms of the 890, its performance, I suppose, is how luxurious it feels. While
Yeah.
Handles like a boat.
it handles like a super yacht because it is a super yacht. But what would you say quantifies the 890 as performing? And it's delivery.
Guys, Star Citizen is live on Twitch. If you don't have Twitch, you can watch it here, no problem.
It's not a combat ship.
That's why I do this.
Talking about the Gladiator,
I really like this discussion
or the Hammer
and the different opinions.
talking about combat
I would love to have like
how well the Hammerhead can
a regular player in this discussion
Gladiators, how well it can do in
to let them know what we think. That would be awesome. They should do that one time.
based on what the goal is to achieve with the ship. So performance matters, but what performance matters depends on what the ship's for.
Right. It's like you know, you judge a ship based on what it's intended to do, as opposed to maybe what you want it to do. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Like we were just talking about this way out. Like there's that movie A Knight's Tale. Remember that one with Heath Ledger and everything?
Yeah.
It's not the best movie ever made, but it's perfect at doing what it set out to do. Like for when you consider all that it's supposed to be in its place, like it is a flawless movie from beginning to end. Shout out to Heath. All right, so welcome everybody. I don't know. I'm really good at this. Welcome everybody to Star Citizen Live, the IAE 2952 Super Talk Spectacular. I didn't name it before we decided to film. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and if you've never seen a Star Citizen Live before, it's where we take about an hour, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, out at the end of our week, and we discuss some aspect of Star Citizen's continuing development. On the show this week, to celebrate this year's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo 2952, we have got 6 esteemed members from our vehicle teams. We've got Vehicle Director, Mr. John Crew.
Hello.
We've got Dave Colson. I don't even know what your title is these days. Senior programmer, who's he futzel?
Vehicle programmer.
Vehicle programmer from the content from the feature and experience teams. Corey from the ship content team, helping to build out the art. Ben, art director from the content team. Mark, design, and Henry. I was doing so good. I got to you.
Last hurdle, Jared. Last hurdle.
You
Henry,
always
what,
forget
this
the
is
name.
your first time appearing on camera for anybody in Star Citizen. What do you do?
I'm Henry. I'm a vehicle artist. Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you. Henry was kind enough to be a last-minute replacement to fill in. So literally, thank you for. We literally grabbed you about 5 minutes before we started.
Why he says that? He makes that guy so uncomfortable.
So we are in the IAE.
This is crazy.
Technically launched today, this is going on in the Microtech Convention Center. It's your chance to explore almost every single ship and vehicle that Star Citizen has to offer. On Inside Star Citizen yesterday, we talked a bit about the 600i rework and a bit about who Drake is, and introduced the brand new Drake Cutter. Next week on ISC, we'll be talking about even more spacecraft, some that you know about, like the Polaris and the concept rework for the interior that's going on, and then ships that you're not supposed to know about, but maybe if you went to Reddit, you already do. But we're not going to spoil that here for those who are staying pristine. So on our Inside Star Citizens will be where we'll talk about all the new ships and give all the information and stuff like this. Today, here on the show today, we want to talk more about the process of making ships. What makes a ship good, which we just talked about, how we go about making them, the considerations that go into that, and just overall a bit about the process. The Star Citizen project has grown by leaps and bounds over the last several years. We used to do a show called Ship Shape, where we educated about the entire pipeline and how ships move through it. We haven't done that in a while, but since those days, we have gained a whole lot of people. So for some of our long-time viewers, some of this might seem repetitive. Some of this might seem like stuff you already know. But we got a lot of new folks, and maybe, as all things, the only constant is change. Maybe the pipeline's changed a bit, the process has changed a bit. So we'll see if we can educate a bit. I see.
By the way, the Drake Cutter is already in the store as a starter package for $45. I don't know. CCU Game App says the real original price is $155, which will give you a saving of $110. I don't know if that is true. My
Basically
God.
6 major kind of sections. There was the initial design and then concept, and then white box, then gray box, then
Some other stuff.
some other stuff.
New stuff
Let's
next.
talk that.
Just finish it.
Let's go to John Crew. Why am I doing this? John, talk us through the pipeline. What's the at the high level? What does every ship do?
You mentioned things changing, and it is changing, and it's the perfect group of people because Mark and Corey have literally the last month or so been working on updates for it.
Okay.
So completely unprompted, I'll throw it over to you two to see if it's your baby that you've been.
Top tier.
Go on, Corey.
Good start so far.
Really, the biggest changes are sort of more of a focus on an actual planning phase between sort of pre-production and production. So we've actually sort of defined planning as an individual thing, right? So we have to go away and estimate it. We've been looking at how we estimate how long it takes to do this stuff, like actually getting the team more involved. Like we're basically grabbing everyone, doing planning poker, which is kind of fun and a weird thing, but it works surprisingly well. Like we've rolled out a couple of new.
What is planning poker?
I should have brought the cards.
You should have bought the it's
We could do some
Yeah.
Star Citizen planning poker cards.
that'd be pretty great.
It
It's
sounds like some pretty
yeah.
good merch right there.
like I did it. I used to manage the props team, and I've recently sort of transitioned over the ship, so that's why I'm here with these people now.
Should do some planning poker role play here.
Do it live. Yeah. So basically, I mean, it's probably not the most legit. I'm sure there are like agile development experts out there who would shake their heads at how I do.
You're about to get
planning
shouted
poker,
at,
but-
Corey.
Yeah. Basically, you have a stack of cards. It's got numbers on it that represent values. I tend to just do it in days because art tasks is pretty easy to break down in days. But if you're doing more nebulous things, you can use a point system. It's kind of weird. I don't really like that. I like dates as a measurement. I mean, do you guys use story points for
We
stuff?
use points, yeah.
Nah.
The only difference really is, like, as you said, art is like pretty straightforward
Yep.
and easy to estimate how
Yeah.
long something might take. But engineering tasks tend to have all of this like R&D and experimentation work, and it's very hard to guess.
Well,
So
I
we
think-
tend to quantify things in terms of the complexity rather than the time.
Yeah. It's like a consensus on how crazy what you're asking someone to do is, right? And it's not necessarily saying this is 6 months of crazy. It's saying this is 30 crazy, right?
30 points of crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Compared to other crazy things we've done,
Yeah,
this one
exactly.
feels about the same sort
Yes.
of
Yeah.
complexity
Exactly.
as the
So
other
you
one.
could probably derive, an estimate from that, but it's
It's a bit different. Carry on though.
Anyway, so that's a bit of a tangent. But basically, so you have these cards, they've got values on them. Everyone has their cards face down, and you say, okay, so we're going to look at how long do you guys think it will take to do the white box pass for the exterior of the ship, for example, right? And everyone will have a little think, and then they'll get there, they'll select their card, and then, you say whatever, show your cards. Everyone presents their card, and you basically look and see if everyone's got like a consensus on how long it's going to take, or if there's like a massive deviance. And if there is, you say, Henry, you said it's going to take you 20 days to do this task, but John said it's going to take 10. Why is it going to take you twice as long? And then you might say, well, here's a bunch of things that John didn't think about. And then John might go, oh,
Henry,
okay.
you're slow.
Yeah. Or it might say, Henry, pull your finger out, mate. Come on. But basically, the point is that you've got the people working on a task and you're trying to reach a consensus. It does take a bit of time as well, which is a bit,
I think in the past, what we've tended to do is we've tended to do this on like a ship scale. So we've basically looked at a ship as a whole and kind of gone, okay, well, like we know another ship of roughly this size and this complexity with, it's a really well-known art style or it's a completely unknown art style. We've kind of broken it down that way. Whereas what this allows us to do is the team to kind of take on, have more input into that. And also because our complexity of our ships has grown so much over the years, it's no longer a case of like, oh, here's a small single-seater and all small single-seaters take X amount of time because, some of them have, one wing that you can just mirror around. Other ones have, completely unique parts and completely unique functionality. And it just allows us to, like, get a better understanding of how long we think things are going to take and, because of that, hit our targets better.
Yeah.
Like we've already, compared to how we used to do it, it used to be at a high level, people would
It's t-shirt
leads and
sizes.
directors would say it's roughly going to take this long as a best guess ballpark, but sometimes it's been so long since we've been actively doing some of the things that our estimates have fell short or new tech's made it more complicated or easier, so we don't have as an accurate idea of it anymore compared to the people who are doing it day in, day out. Mm-hmm. So we've had a couple of ships go through this process now, and the estimates we've got from doing this have been almost to the day correct. And with some of them, we underestimated the whole scope and cut back what we were going to do because we knew it wouldn't fit because of the better estimates, and everything got as much attention as it deserved. And we now know we just need to go back and revisit something else later, but we also know how much time that's going to take, so we can plan for it better.
Yeah, we can adapt the scope of a project to the time we have, basically, because we have a better idea of how long each individual thing is going to take. So we can say, right, we've got 30 days, all this is going to take us 40 days. Ben, what are you willing to cut? And then Ben will say, well, this task is 10 days, so we'll cut that. And then, So better planning.
But that's
That's one thing.
okay. We can't skip your original question, Jared. Do you want the TLDR version?
Do the
Yeah,
I'm just going to waffle, mate. So
Let's
just,
do the TLDR
we got to our first
of
stage.
Everything else.
from
Okay,
design
so
to concepting.
TLDR is we start out, like John and his design
Yeah.
team come up with the idea of we want a ship to do this role and deliver this, and then I think you normally send around like you pitch it to people, don't they? And
Yeah,
they can kind
so
of come up with ideas.
we have the very high level, like one sentence. I want a space food truck van. We use that as an example for this. And
It has to be Drake.
And it has to be Drake.
Yep.
And either I've come up with that or I've got it from Chris or Todd or Tony or someone like that. I give that to a designer and they flesh it out into the full brief. That goes back around all the design leads because there's a lot of design teams and they're all working on slightly different things. They all may have slightly different ideas compared to the designer who did that vehicle brief may not be aware of, say, what EUPU is going to be working on in 9 months' time, which may have an effect. So they all have their
I
feedback.
think I need some of those helmets in the background.
Final sign off. And then it goes into the concept phase, which
Yeah.
is
That's pretty cool.
unchanged from,
Draw a nice picture.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
first pass review,
I
second
mean,
pass.
you say that, but we spend a lot more time on the concept to make sure that everything is going to work now. So we do the interiors fully fleshed out to make sure that everything that's going to fit inside the ship actually fits inside the ship. And with the extra complexity we've now got, there's so much more to consider.
It would
during
also
the
be
concept phase.
worth adding to this point. Obviously, I'm not the most knowledgeable about the concept pipeline, but I am aware that concept is literally not just drawing a picture. I know you mock up the geometry of a ship,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the general shape and everything. So you have a reasonably clear idea of what it's going to look like.
It's much easier to make changes and to invest time when it's in concept than it is when you get into production, because
Sure.
in concept you've got one artist working on it and it's fairly easy to kind of course correct.
Yep.
Whereas by the time you're into production, you've got an art team invested in it, plus all the downstream teams and design and everything. It's a much slower,
Much more
ship
expensive.
steer, yeah.
And you've got to worry about performance and actually having it work and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas in concept, it's a visual representation of it. So it doesn't matter if you look at the geometry and it's really jank, because we've got a whole team of production artists to
Make it
basically,
work.
convert a concept mesh into something that actually
Yeah.
goes in a video game and runs, right? And
And
works
looks good.
And looks good.
So the concept's complete.
So concept's complete, go to white box, which is basically, those two things don't finish concept, start white box next day. It's actually, I lied, sorry. Concept's complete. We then do proper planning.
Planning phase.
Okay, and then it gets scheduled. I'm still learning the new production, yeah. And then into white box, which is basically, we do a fairly quick breakdown of the ship and all the parts that need to be in it and get it into engine as quickly as we can, just to allow us to run around it, make sure that, what we think works visually actually works from a gameplay point of view, and make sure it flies. Make sure thrust is in the right position. Make sure, make sure.
The ever popular, when I open this door, does it actually stay within the ship?
Yeah, does it go outside the doors?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we actually have that test just to drag the ship around to make sure everything stays attached.
Yeah.
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 And then, once at the end of each kind of phase, we have a review process where we sit down with everyone and get everyone in a room, make sure we're all happy with it. But yeah, white box is basically
Make it work.
we don't. I'm gonna hate
It's
myself.
base
for this. We don't really
functionality.
care what it looks like at that point. It's about making sure that we know what we're doing and it's all going to work. And then into grey box is where we do most of the modelling, most of the artwork.
We don't care about what it looks like aesthetically, but we care about what it looks like as a basic representation for every aspect of the
We need to
ship,
get
right?
proportions right and everything in white box.
Yeah.
And
Now, at some point, even in here, I know it's not art complete, but designers start working on flight characteristics.
designers started day one.
Exactly. So while
Concept
white box
phase.
and gray box seems like it's just an art kind of thing,
Yeah.
it's you designers and programmers and stuff are still in there, flying around this ugly white brick.
Yep.
That's going on, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I've undersold it. It's not that ugly. It's like I mean, it's representative of what the final ship's going to look like.
I saw the Herald in white box. That was ugly.
We have to be involved from the beginning because certain things have massive impacts. So with the flight, it's something you have to consider from day one, from the concept phase, because thruster positioning and location makes a huge...
I knew he was going to bring it up.
Well, you shouldn't have mentioned it. It was fresh on my mind. It makes a huge impact, the actual locations on ships. So saying that we need a thruster closer towards the wing could change the way that the concept work's going to work for the entire ship. So it's something that has to be considered the whole way around. There are multiple teams that give feedback during the actual concept phase to make sure it's going to work. Because if we put all the concept art puts all the thrusters down the center spine of the ship, it's never going to work. It just won't. So
We'll go really fast in one direction.
yeah, but you won't be able to turn.
No, you're going to turn. That's fine.
I mean, if you want Harold, sure.
Yeah.
But like, so
You
it's,
can't change the thruster positions on the Herald, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not going to happen.
I can't change that one, but I can change all the others.
Yeah, you can change like the maps and that.
What if we change the Herald to go back to being asymmetrical? Then
Well,
I'd be
we just
alright
put
with that.
giant sticks coming off the side of it and attach the thrusters to it.
I feel like just make another ship.
Just make another ship. That's awesome.
all right, so white box, gray box, what comes after that?
Lot Zero. So it used to be
Game dev
final
tournament.
art would be the next phase that we've moved on to, but we found that the amount of things that got put into final art from an art perspective was so vast that having it all as one phase meant a lot of things bled over into each other, and it had a knock-on for other downstream teams like the audio team, the VFX team,
Tech art as well. It's like,
and tech art,
yeah.
because theoretically they could get involved in doing their work.
Who is that guy, man?
Know when certain criteria
He
are
looks. He talks like the boss. It doesn't say. I don't want to say he looks like the boss, but I think he could be the new boss, the new art director for CIG. Or is he? Actually, I have no idea. They don't show names
They
right
don't
now.
have to get involved immediately, but it gives them a
It was a
longer
very
window.
polite way.
I know he was in a video yesterday.
Making sure that I don't make changes right at the last minute.
Yeah, basically.
I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to say it.
Like, let's not be around it.
I wasn't
It was
gonna say it.
basically, it makes us sign the ship off at the earliest possible opportunity so
Yep.
that it can unlock other people from doing their work. And I can't come in at the last minute and be like, oh, do you know what?
just to stop that art director toilet getting.
Yeah, it is basically
Yeah,
that. is it?
exactly.
Yeah.
Turn into
Can we
true
just
control.
move that
Left,
wall
left,
just a little
right,
bit?
left, left.
And yeah.
And for folks who, again, for many people, this is going to be their first conversation, discussion of ship pipeline. LOD.
LOD, level of detail, is basically like you take your geometry, so your 3D model for the ship, duplicate it, and then smush it down, like optimize it more. You do that a few times, and basically going to really
Less complexity, right?
Yeah, as the further away you get from it in space, it will transition to the next LOD, right? So it's basically a way of optimizing a mesh as it gets further away from the camera.
Yeah.
Lot 0 is the highest quality one. So
Yeah.
if you've got your face
Yeah.
up against
Exactly.
the table, you see
Yeah.
everything. You step.
So
two
they
to
just
that.
changed the
These
store
bridges in the table won't be
and changed
modeled,
the
or they'll be
Cutter starter pack to the
And
Cutter
also,
IAE
if,
starter pack
for example,
with original
you do
price of
model
$60
something,
bucks
then when
and
you
a
see
saving of
backcast it,
45.
It kind of makes those losses
Interesting.
redundant, right? So you really want like Ben to be like, Ben, we're not doing any changes to it after we've done Lot 0, right?
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's your last chance to say change this, because we're going to move on to basically all these like destructive processes that mean you can't really go back from that point.
It's definitely an intervention.
I was going to say, it looks like
Like, bear in mind, right, Corey joins the team, and within about 2 weeks, he's like, right, we need to talk about the pipeline. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Also, there's a new package available for the Corsair. 3 paints, one yellow, one kind of black with red, and one green
When
with
you're in the mood, it's
orange.
not like, this is the way. Like, I'm not
Looks
just
okay.
Like, I'm just being like, oi, you know.
So
These are suggestions of things to try.
the situation you
By
could get
suggestions,
into,
you mean
right?
dictatorship.
The situation you could get into is that you make like 4 different versions of the ship geometry, and then myself or Mark come along and be like, that thruster's in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you now need to redo that area of geometry for 4 different versions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You need to redo it.
Yeah, like some things, are easy. Like, because again, as you go down through the LOD chain, you're making.
And the regular Cutter is online for 40
So,
bucks
if by the time
with
you get to, like,
LTI.
LOD 4 and 5.
Just came
move things
online
around a
today
little bit,
morning.
Doesn't really matter. Sometimes you play
Yeah.
with the scale of them so that you reduce the amount of pop you get as these things kind of change. But the LODs is like, it's the icing on the cake in terms of like where it is in the production pipeline, but it's also like the least fun and the most tedious part
Yeah.
of the production
take
pipeline.
this
Yeah.
beautiful
your
looking
favorite part?
ship
Yeah.
and make it look worse.
And-
then make it look worse than that.
Yeah.
Make it look worse than
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
What's
and
going
it's,
on?
it's quite therapeutic sometimes.
Do you want to do all the odds then?
No.
Henry,
That thought was kind of sent me off.
Yeah, you're the newest member of the team here, and it's like this. So this pipeline that's being developed is pretty much the only pipeline you've worked in here, anyway, right?
Yeah.
What are your opinions on it so far? Do you this is a safe space. This is a safe space.
I'm between you, don't worry.
So the Corsair is available for $225. So
I think, well, I was working on props before,
and add
as a war
somewhat
similar
similar
with
pipeline.
120 months
There's
insurance.
a lot more technical aspects that go into it on the vehicle side, and it seems like it works. And there's a lot of what's it called room for conversations about stuff during the pipeline, which I think is very good, honestly. I don't know what to say bad about it. I'm learning about it, and it seems, it does its job. That's for sure.
You get past. You get past.
Have we completed a ship in this new pipeline yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cutter, right? Is it
Mm,
cutter?
I don't think we did the planning in
Was
that
it
way
the-
for the cutter.
CAR.
Are we allowed to talk about that?
We are last.
The cutter, yes.
No, the other one.
No. Well,
Oh.
no.
Well, we said it.
The one that's
No.
going to get blipped out.
No, that other one gets
That's-
formally revealed next week.
Okay, yeah.
Next
Yes,
week.
we've done a variant of a ship.
We got time.
Variant
Not
mark, right? Not variant. It's a variant, isn't it? It's not a.
It's a
mod.
variant.
Oh, the
Yes.
new variant. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
the-
I can't talk about that one.
Yeah, don't worry about that. But yeah, so basically, like this is just kind of like things that I learned because I was managing the props team for a while and had an opportunity to sort of push the pipeline forward there, and it's just kind of stuff that I found worked for that team. Trying that kind of stuff out on the vehicle team basically, and seeing
I've
what
seen a
works.
trend here because I left the props team. You remade the pipeline.
Sorry.
You then come to the ship. I'm like, hang on a minute. I must have been doing something wrong.
No, it's.
Just Corey's following.
I'm just. I'm
So
standing on the
they
ship.
also added a CCU warbond for the Corsair
Beating them with a hammer.
with several options,
You're here as
and they add and delete on the website constantly. If you use the CCU game app,
I was gonna say
you can see in notifications what they add and what they deleted.
We actually
It's very
are
interesting.
largely independent of the pipeline because
shows.
we well, there's a few like the first reason is that we tend to try our best to not have to do code work for every single ship, just because there's loads of ships and it would be unfeasible to do so. So we sort of live adjacent to the pipeline, doing things to support it every so often. So that could be making tools to help designers, or a new piece of tech that you can integrate to the ship to make the doors open differently. I don't know, something like that, right? And so we interact with the.
They break for us.
Exactly. We interact with the pipeline in the sense that we're trying to support it functioning, right? Most recently, for example, we made this tool that shows the designers why certain thrusters are being used in a certain way, which was received pretty positively, so that was good. So for example, the way the flight system works is it'll take the positioning of the thrusters that the artists have done, and it'll try and automatically put them into groups to use them for certain things. So when you fly left, it has a list of thrusters where it's like, oh, I need to fire these thrusters when you go left. And that process is automatic, and the designers very often found that the thrusters were in odd groups and they didn't know why. So now there's a tool that shows them these thrusters are in this group and these are the reasons, and it's usually because, oh, you've rotated this thing in the model incorrectly or something like that.
So it thinks it's in the wrong
Always the
direction.
artist's fault.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true.
Thruster facing inside.
I mean, it was a nightmare having to go through the entirety of the XML and find out where we'd accidentally randomly put X or Y or
Yeah.
a minus instead of a positive, and there was no real good feedback for it. So
Yeah.
we'd have to just comb through the whole thing and try and figure out what wasn't firing or why it was pointing that way.
Thousands of lines, and as far as the game knew, you intentionally put it that way.
Because you're telling it that.
Because, you said fire down the x-axis. It didn't know that you wanted it down the y instead. So it's like,
Yeah.
So you can overwrite it in this file, but
if you know what you're doing.
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do it.
Well, if it's pointing in the wrong direction, like physically pointing in the wrong direction, it won't fire if the implementation file has it in the opposite direction, because there's a degree of functionality with it as well for how
Oh, so
far
it
away
thinks
from
it's-
the
yeah,
angle it can
okay.
point. But then that was the other problem. So if we were 1 degree too far on a fixed thruster or something, it then wouldn't fire, despite the fact that it was correct positive X and Y, because the angle wasn't the right angle. That's it wouldn't fire, and we wouldn't know.
So now there's a tool that tells you.
Since we're legendarily renowned for being really good at naming things, does this tool have a name?
It is called the thruster group debugger. It's very posh. We didn't call it
Very
something like, I don't
pragmatic
know, Jackson or
Yeah.
It's just functional name.
All right. So while we're talking about thrusters here, there's always one of the things that Chris has been known to say from time to time, we repeat often, is you take it to the point of realism, and then you bring it back to the point of fun. How real is real when it comes to these spaceships? How obsessed or concerned are we with making sure everything is as accurate scientifically or physically as possible? And how much do we just like rule of cool some stuff and be like, no, I just like the way that looks, so you just hand waving them and make it work?
It depends on the ship, really. Like,
Depends who you ask
Yeah.
as well. Ben's a very rule of cool person, and you keep having to reel him in.
I just
Can't
want
do
Jeffrey's
that, Ben.
tubes. That's all I want is Jeffrey's tubes. I'm not allowed them. Not
Like,
real.
why aren't we allowed Jeffrey's tubes?
Anyway, sorry.
I'm not getting into this conversation again. Not on live recording.
we'll speak for an hour about Jeffrey's tubes now.
We could.
If you look at the
Wait, we could have Jeffrey's tubes, or we could talk.
No,
Oh.
no.
no Jeffrey's tubes. If you look at the Hornet, that's a really good example of thruster layout for what a real spaceship would be. In that it's got a big thruster at the back, it's got two retros that are in line with it, and then the maneuvering thrusters are all equally spaced around it. So it's basically just
Very functional.
it's a cube with a spaceship dressing on it. So that's like real spaceship. But if we want every spaceship to be like that, that's sort of the perfect layout, which means every ship's thruster layout has to be like that, just on a scale, which means the Gladius here is good. I don't know, this one. Hopefully everyone knows what a Gladius looks like. Those thrusters aren't in line like they are on the Hornet. They're spread out because of the shape of the wings. So technically that's less perfect, less real, but it looks, in my opinion, cooler than a Hornet. And it's like that on every ship. We always try and make sure, and I'm pretty sure we have in every instance, but I'm not going to 100% confirm that every ship has enough thrusters to believably do what it's supposed to do. And they may not be in the scientifically correct place. Like if you look at the 400i, there's thrusters there to move it, but they could be in a better place, but that would mean changing like the toothbrush nose of it. The snout. And that's where the rule of cool compromise comes in. And that's different for every ship.
The decisions that were made in the design of the flight system is such that we tend to forgive
So
imperfections
I
with
tried on the
regards to
side to
balance
use the
and
CCU game app to
thrusters,
create
they're
a
positioned
chain
ladder,
to
as, you know, Marcus
from the
made
cutter
clear.
to the Corsair,
But if you,
and it
for
says
example,
the
have
Corsair is
slight
actually
imbalance versus the front and the back of the
250.
ship, the system will
And
ignore the imbalance.
today in the
You
store,
kind of need to be sensible.
in the online shop,
There is a
it's
point where you can
220
do something kind of dumb and it won't fly.
with LTI.
Like it
So I could save 40
it's
bucks
very good at,
if I do it.
mirroring real life.
So
in
just
that
saying,
way anyway, because like
if I
I would think, you know, with our
create a chain
designs,
from the cutter to the Corsair, I could save 40 bucks today.
we could probably come up with the perfect automobile, right? We could probably come up with the car that is the most efficient, can drive the first, whatever. But if you look at cars on the road, like most of them are different. And you know, I think there's always a point in real life
Space
where,
and life for variety.
yeah, a decision has been made to be like, okay, like we could do it like that, but this way just feels better. This way's nicer. We as a collective we prefer it like this, and you know, our systems allow us to kind of have that freedom as well, pretty much.
I want to also give shout out to the realism with regard to the way ships animate and move. A lot of, like you mentioned earlier, the way doors move and animate is, all of it is not faked. It all, there's just like physical space to how everything moves,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is really cool.
Which is
Nothing disappears into.
yeah, well, what you were
magic
mentioning
voids.
earlier, which is, you know, like you start white boxing and, you know, you're kind of walking through the ship and it's like, oh, yeah, done the doors and everything. And you're like, cool, just put it in like the outside camera and open the doors. It's like, oh, okay, all right, yeah. Because, you know, we
Stickler for that.
Yeah,
so
we-
making sure everything fits.
we can hide stuff. Like, if we wanted to, we just don't draw it when it goes into the wall. But we want to make sure, like,
Want to sell it?
yeah, we want to sell the dream and, you know,
Those are the sorts of details that you can notice a lot of the
Yeah.
time, and especially when you've got lots of things that are like breaking the laws of physics in subtle ways. The more they build up, the more it sort of breaks that sense of, this is a real place I could be.
And it was a real struggling block in the past for a lot of our concept artists who have worked on other projects, and they were used to, it's just a movie set or it's just a TV set. So
Guys,
I don't care
you know,
what the door
drop
is, it's
a
open.
comment in the
And now we're
chat.
like, no, you need need to account for
or then later below in the video what you think about this discussion.
With Jim Martin.
Do you guys think
Dave Hobbins,
this discussion makes a lot of
people
sense?
who have
I mean,
made spaceships for
there's
Star Wars,
nothing
or
new.
Star Trek. That
There's
are
nothing new.
flying,
There's nothing interesting right now.
Falcons
Nothing
and
about
this,
new
and
ships.
then they come here,
I would.
and it's like,
I thought I see something about
inside
I don't
has
know
to fit
the
in the outside.
Orion
And it's like,
or
this is a-
the
it seems like
Pioneer.
such an
Some
obvious thing, but
some
it's not a
hints
consideration. It
when
exists
those ships gonna be
anywhere
on
else.
schedule.
Not just in other video games, but in any of sci-fi. But
It feels great when it does, though, because everything makes sense. As you're walking around the ship, why is it so thick? Oh, well, that's where the bulkhead door goes. Well, this wall's thicker than this wall. Yeah, because that's an outside door. And it sells the realism of the ship more.
As I said earlier, I would love to see some
Could
players or YouTubers sitting there talking to them
but
in a live discussion. That would be awesome. They will never do that. They're scared about that.
On a ship, and I won't say the ship because it'll reveal. But they needed to put a door in. They put a door in, and the door stuck out through the exterior of the ship and the neck. And I looked at him and I was like, I was just brand new, and I watched him go. He goes, oh. And then he just grabbed the door and he rescaled the door down, and moved on. And I was like, I know I'm new here, but that doesn't seem like that's going to be a viable solution down the road. And it did become a problem years later when it came time to actually build that ship. So yeah, it's a unique challenge for concept artists, even some of the great concept artists that come from these other. And we have a tremendous array of concept artists who have worked on this game. But yeah, is that the biggest challenge of making spaceships for Star Citizen? If you had to say, what is the hardest part of making ships for Star Citizen? I'm imagining you've each probably got different stories, so I'm curious to hear what your different answers would be. What is the pain in the butt, the thing that the part of the process?
X-forms.
That's a technicality, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Tell us what that is. Then.
Yeah.
By the way, they have the big ships online. The Kraken is online for 2,000. I see
Basically,
right
on an
now.
animated piece
We
of
need to go
geometry,
through that later.
The phone has like a position stored on it, and if you haven't oriented it correctly, that position is kind of stored in the, in the file, and it can like skew things. So like you might have a helper pointing the wrong way, so when something attaches to it,
It's not available, but they show it as limited stock. I don't know.
To its LODs, so something just flies out into space when it goes.
When you click on View Offers for the
Stacks of
Kraken, there's nothing written
nested
here.
objects, so you can have them all like.
Yeah.
You have a big corridor section that's made of like 50 child objects,
Yeah,
and there's an X-form issue on somewhere.
it'll kind of compound.
Everything beneath that,
Yeah.
just like if it transforms it like 1 meter off for the first child, then the next one's like 2 meters off, 3 meters, and
So you just get this
And it
weird
looks-
like
Cascade, like an array.
cascading event horizon.
and it looks
Yeah.
fine in the max file.
Yeah,
You
when
hit export, and
Yeah.
it goes in engine. It's
very bad.
like, oh,
But you can't just look
Yeah,
at
so the
engine and
official
go, "Oh,
price,
this is
it's true, for the Corsair is 250 right now,
break," so you've got to
and you will get it
go
cheaper
bit by bit.
if you use the special upgrade offer.
Because there's no way to see if it actually fixed it in Max because
Yeah.
it doesn't show in Max.
I think the biggest challenge is sort of, for me at least, is just the sort of the scope of a ship as a whole, right? It's so many different moving parts, so many different bits and bobs, right?
Complicated.
Yeah, it's just they're just very complicated, and because of their complexity, you have to be very attentive, and you have to make sure that you don't miss any like details, right? And it's very easy to break stuff sometimes, and then it's a case of everyone getting their heads together and being like, okay, why is this broken? And you need someone from design look at it and be like, and then someone else will look at it and they'll be like,
I mean, that's
I
a
don't
pretty
know.
good impression,
Yeah.
I have to admit.
I was like,
not
it was
design
like I was
issue.
listening to Mark Gibson right there.
And yeah, I think it's just you'd have to track down what the issue is. It's basically like they're very complicated. I'd say that's it.
I got an answer that is sort of unique, probably to the programmer's experience of these ships. Right? Is some of the ships, most of the ships probably, I don't come directly through my hands because the tools that we've made for the design and art teams work, and the ship is created and they're having their time and it's all good. It's all fine. From my perspective, it's all good. And then there are some ships that have special, unique functionality. And these are the ones that come through my plate because the artists, designers will come to me and be like, this thing that we want to do with the ship does not work because there's no tech to do it, or the tech doesn't support this. And those are the ships that are difficult to deal
The
with.
turret starts on top and then it rotates around to the bottom.
The Scorpius is an example of this. Another one is the Hull A.
Vehicle feature team were in the kickoff. to be
That's true.
No
that's
objections were raised. They were just like, yeah, fine, no problem.
true. The animating section on the Hull A is another great example
Oh, yeah.
of this, a very difficult thing to
the
deal
edge
with.
cases from that.
Yeah. Another thing is the thruster, like folding things from the Redeemer. Is that the right ship?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those folding thrusters, they have special case code to deal with those. All of those weird edge cases of the things that make the ships like unique and special.
Yeah, you
So
know the
need to
difference
write a
because
more
the
flexible system, basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. Yeah.
Redeemer is the one with the engines that do like this,
The
Yeah.
and the
nutcrackers.
Reclaimer is the one that can't take off from the surface of a planet and make it to atmosphere on its own.
Yes.
That's an old cut.
Yeah.
So he remembers.
I remember. I feel the pain.
All right, so any other answers for the hardest part? John, as the vehicle overseer,
There's a lot of challenge just because of the size of the team and like the global nature of it. Like, I manage a lot of people, so anyone that's done management of like more than 20 people knows the pain of just keeping everything a well-oiled machine. And I think vehicle pillar-wise, if we include of like vehicle feature, the artists and designers in the US, tech artists, and the VFX and audio, it knocks on for like 80 to 90 people trying to get everyone all working together on, could be like 6 or 7 vehicles simultaneously in various stages, just getting that all harmoniously working and being able to tell the people at the top, like, yep, 12 months from now, this is what's going to come out there, and hit those dates. And that's sort of where the planning poker has helped a lot. In the previous version was just like, yeah, we give the t-shirt sizes of like small, medium, large, extra large, and we just book those in. And the teams would always do their best to hit those dates. Sometimes they slipped, sometimes they were ahead. But yeah, just that management side of it is a difficulty, but that's part of the role. But relating to the actual ships themselves, I think for me, we have a lot of ships in the game, and it's every time we bring a new one in, getting a real believable justification for it, because it's the first question you always ask me when we do the filming of why? Why this ship? And we don't want to just make them just because they're cool looking ships. They need to have a role and purpose and not tread on another one's role, and all just work together nicely.
And John has done enough ship segments for me at this point. I'm realizing that my mannerisms and habits are, well, no, like literally. He sits down and goes, you ready? Yeah, ready to get started? All right, start recording? Okay. Why? Why this ship? Yeah. Why not something else? Where's my jalopy? So from the most difficult part or the least favorite part, what's the best part about making spaceships? And Henry, you got to talk on this one. We're going to make you go first. What's your favorite part about making spaceships?
I think making everything work, just putting it all together at the end. You know?
Seeing it come together.
Yeah, that's
Some of it
Okay.
starts-
exactly. Yeah.
He doesn't really talk much.
Yeah, it is exciting when it's
I
a thing that works.
yeah, like seeing.
It works.
Yes.
We've got to work as send it out.
Yeah. We need the equivalent of like smashing the champagne bottle against the side of the
So the poor guy,
It's a big red
they
room.
called him in
Yeah,
5
yeah.
minutes before
I
the
think
recording,
One of my favourite bits is
and he was allowed to say 5 words. Oh my gosh!
when we get to the point where we hand the ship over to other people.
Come on!
And like, I get how it sounds, right? I get how it sounds. But what I mean is yeah, we hand it over to the marketing team. Yeah, we hand it over to the marketing team, and like you've spent like the last 6 months staring at this ship, and you've lived through the frustrations of all the annoyances that you've had to deal with to get it to where it is, and then you hand it over to the marketing team, and they go away and they do their thing, and they come back like 3 weeks later, they're like, oh yeah, can you just approve these shots for me? You open it up and you're like, cool, click. Ooh. Oh, I like that, and click. Oh, I like that, and you've had a bit of time to kind of step away from it. You come back to it and you look at it, and actually being like proud of what the team's delivered is super rewarding. And like I say, with our ships, they are super complicated. They break a lot during development, and there's a lot of one of the hardest things I think is for me is managing expectations, and that's not like managing like the exec's expectations or like that stuff. It's managing like my expectations and the team's expectations of what we can deliver for these ships. And you kind of sometimes get lost if they're like, oh, it sucked that we couldn't quite do this, we didn't have the tech, or couldn't quite do that. But then
enough time to do that.
yeah, we didn't.
The way I wanted it.
Yeah, and yeah, you're kind of like making compromises. But then when you see it all come together at the end, and you get these beautiful screenshots that have been made, or B-roll, or trailers, or whatever it is, and you're like, yeah, do you know what? I can have a whiskey tonight, and I can feel proud that we did good. And I think that's the rewarding part for me.
Similar, like when the backers first get their hands on them, when they first get to spawn it at the ASOP terminal, run over to the ship, and you just start seeing it all over Spectrum, all over Reddit,
Yes.
all over Twitch, where people have started to play with them and use them. How excited and happy they are to actually get the ship that they've been waiting for.
Absolutely.
And use it. It's fantastic seeing them actually get their hands on it.
I think mine is similar, seeing the reception to it, especially at live events. So the last CitizenCon we did in Manchester, where we were sat in the dark in the sofa at the front of the stage whilst the Carrick trailer came on, and the noise and like the physical, everyone was clapping, pounding their feet, and you could feel it in your chest from, I don't know how many people, there's like 1,000 people in that room. And just the noise and the pressure of that hitting you on stage.
So cool.
Amazing.
Well, we were all in the other theatre, like all the staff were in the other theatre, and we could hear people, but other side of the building, absolutely exploding about it. It was fantastic. I was terrified, for the record, because that was my ship, and I was absolutely bricking it. But it was amazing to see.
Well, the Carrick is a great ship.
We've talked a lot about pipeline and process and stuff, and I'm sure that for the folks who've got to make the summary videos, the recap videos, they're like, there's no actual new information in this
Exactly.
show. Like, they've turned an hour into 40 seconds.
So, new informations?
Let's talk a little bit about what's actually in the pipeline.
Come
right
on.
now.
Good.
So,
finally.
Folks who follow the project know that there's the only constant is change. Let's just
What's
get that out
in the
door.
pipeline, guys?
We say we're working on this, and then we want to do this next, and then we want to do that next. But then some priority changes, or some tech takes longer to come online, and we thought we were going to do this next, but then the underlying tech isn't ready, so we can't do that next. There's staff departures, people move in and out through the industry or whatever, and we thought we were going to do that next, but now with the people that we have,
Try to
it's more
keep the good
appropriate
people,
we do
man.
This instead of that. Let's talk about what's in the pipeline right now.
Please.
Not any of the secret stuff, the stuff that's unannounced, but as far as the stuff that the community already knows about, what is currently actively in development?
I'm going to look at John very carefully.
Get the beeper ready.
Yeah, because I need to make, like, if I get the red eyes, I know I've done something wrong.
All we do is just the whole thing is just beep.
Yeah.
Do this or that.
So we'll start with, you kind of like led into it quite well there. The merchantman, that's like the big elephant in the room for me.
I didn't say anything about
No, but it's,
As you casually
it's
mentioned
the
the
big
merchantman.
expectation.
That's clearly on your mind.
It is on my mind. It's a very, very beautiful elephant, but it is very large. I think that's the one that, yes.
The Merchantman.
That's the one for me that is got the most unknowns around it. We're still kind of actively working on it due to basically people chasing new adventures and to slight priority changes. We've kind of got a skeleton team that are currently working on the exterior. The exterior is progressing along well. It's kind of, it's gone through most of its modelling. We're starting to do kind of material breakups and that sort of stuff, and really, defining the overall exterior shape. But we do need to look at that and decide whether or not it's, now is the right time for it with the current team we've got, or whether or not we, focus on other ships. So it's still in progress at the moment. When it's going to actually come out is completely unknown at the moment.
We're at a sort of like crossroads with it, where we've done a lot of, like the interior is white box, the exterior is further along, and we're at a point where we continue down the path and we absorb that amount of time that this ship of that size is going to take, or we, production phrase, put a pin in it and move on to something else, which is going to be a better use of our time. So I can hear all the merchantman owners screaming now. But like, there is a big capital ship. Maybe there are smaller ships that would come sooner that add better value to the game.
It's got to be one of the most complicated ones. Right?
Yeah,
it's the
out
size
of all
of
the
the 890,
capitals,
and it's for being a brand new ship. The art direction style is so much more than anything we've ever done. Like even with the 890, we had some origin stuff to go from with the 600.
So,
yes, the style completely
doesn't matter,
evolved
get on
over
it.
the course of the 890. But
We want to
the
fly the
merchantman's just,
merchantman.
It's not just a capital ship. It's an alien brand new merchantman.
Pretty much
Huge
every other capital ship in the game is human and is modular to some extent. Like you make one corridor piece, you've made 90% of the corridors in the ship. And with Merchantman, that's not true. Like
So much
every,
bespoke.
every corridor is
It
bespoke.
always, the entire thing.
It needs that time and that, I have that expectation. Like I say about managing expectations, we could make it all modular. It wouldn't be what we want.
Wouldn't be as cool.
Yeah.
And so there's a fine balance. And yeah, with every ship, we try and reuse stuff and we try and take the most sensible approach to it. But the Merchantman has like very little to pull from. But anyway, Merchantman done, right?
Wait, no, not Merchantman done.
Merchantman
No,
done.
oh, sorry, right.
I was gonna say, put that in the
Talking about the
home.
Merchantman is done. Sorry, Jared.
Yeah.
Sorry. Talk about the Merchantman. Let's move on. Okay, so other end of the scale, we've kind of just wrapped up the. All right, I'm allowed to talk about these for a minute. Yes, we've just wrapped up the cutter and we just wrapped up the course.
Oh, that's fine. I thought you were going to say about
The Corsair. So those kind of resources are free back up. In terms of the people that are on the Corsair, they're moving on to doing some gold standard work on some squadron ships that will eventually lead to that work coming into the PU at a later date. And then we've got the other people that were working on the cutter. They've moved on to working on to the Spirit. So the Spirit is in early white box. We're tackling the interior. It's all coming along pretty well. We're focusing mainly on the bomber variant right now, but we are making sure we white box the VIP variant because the VIP one is the one that's going to cause the most headaches. It's got multiple floors in
I like it.
small space.
It's got an escape pod. Well, escape.
I actually purchased the Spirit E1.
Uh-oh, now we have.
Okay.
Okay.
Finished the ship.
yeah, we have to work out the middle section, being the escape raft.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the secret bit.
Yeah, the secret. That's not correct.
So yeah, there's a few technical and visual hurdles we need to tackle with that. So we're working through that at the moment. We're working on the links. Thank you. The links. That's also in white box again. Early days. We've white boxed most of the interior and kind of going through the exterior at the moment. And although it's based on the Ursa kind of like chassis,
Links.
I think the only real bit that's being reused is probably the cockpit. Even that will get some love.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like visually, it's going to feel as part of the same family, but will be a different vehicle altogether. We've got the SRV, which is going super good. It's kind of
Final.
trucking along for Argo. It's going through final art. I'd say about 2/3 of the exterior is final art complete in terms of modelling and material breakup and that side of things. Oh, sorry, LOD 0 complete. Oh, yeah. LOD 0 complete. And then on the interior, the cockpit, the kind of like engineering.
So the SRV is almost done, sounds like.
Through LOD 0, and it's just habitation area that's still kind of in.
I don't know, for some reason I'm not interested in that ship.
The Vulture's got to be pretty much done.
Vulture, yes.
He's
so
saying
Vulture
the
is
Vulture.
pretty much ready to go. We're just really waiting on the salvage feature to be kind of completely ready for it. It has meant we've had to go back and make some adjustments to the interior, but they're like minor things, nothing major. So that's going good. The whole C is kind of with tech art. It's kind of we're mostly art complete on it, but we need tech art to go in and do their kind of pass to get it all, like the hull, get it all moving, and once that's done, we can go through and do a final lighting.
The C is almost ready. Wow.
And I know there's discussions going on right now about, because the whole we talk like the Vulture with salvage. There are knock-ons that affect ships that aren't necessarily exclusively ship related.
Yeah.
Like the salvage, gameplay is done by an entirely by a gameplay team,
Yep.
and then gets kind of integrated into the ship. With the Hull C, its big external kind of thing is the economy.
Yeah.
And basically, it's like you can't just dump it out there, and then without all this other work being done for the economy, being done with the cargo refactor, and all the stuff that has to feed into it. So I know there are a lot of conversations going on right now to make sure that when it does drop, it doesn't just destroy.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it. There's things that's like say like pipeline internal, and then there's things that are game wide, and the Hull C is one of those things that juggles both, unfortunately, or careers straight through both of
They're
them.
always the tricky ones as well.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes we're ahead of those gameplay teams. Sometimes we're behind, and we always get the damned if we do, damned if we don't. Like, the ship could be ready, and in the past we'd have just released it without the gameplay, staff error. But now we try and not do that. But then it's the case of, well, hey, this ship's disappeared off the roadmap now. It must be done, so it's coming in the next patch. And it's like,
Gameplay's not ready.
gameplay's not ready.
Yeah,
So-
and things like the Hull C, that requires. It's like it's Hull A on steroids, isn't it? Basically, because that rear
Comes through
section.
my table, isn't it?
Yeah, that rear section has you can walk around it, which you couldn't do on the Hull A, and that
That's a
causes
problem.
a whole lot of headaches. Yeah, lifts in moving. Anyway,
Giant
One
long
physics grid that
pipes.
separates and becomes two physics grids.
and
Three.
and
Three, right.
yeah, like the like say the collar,
yeah.
the pipe. Yeah, we want that to. I have quite high expectations for
gotta
that,
feel-
and so that unfortunately requires some additional work from the different teams to get that looking right and feeling right. Okay, and then we've got like talking of salvage. That's one of those things that is somebody else's baby and feature, has a massive impact on all of our ships.
Yeah.
So the team have been kind of Henry's been kind of like spearheading some of this stuff. Has been working exceptionally hard in looking at all of our current ships that are in game. All of their damage and underlying damage messages were created for a damage feature that was worked on many years ago, and now we're like, well, that works for salvage, but the some of it works great, some of it didn't. And so we're going through, and for me, I love supporting new features. For us to kind of take all of the damage meshes and the UV2s on ships and everything and do them to a gold standard is years of work. Yeah. And I don't want to be the person that's holding back a feature that can be really good fun for the sake of me being like, you can kind of see through that bit, and then you kind of see through this bit.
Yeah.
So we're going in, getting all the ships ready, getting all the UV2s updated. We're improving damage as we can and go through.
I was talking to Lars the other day, and Lars was telling me how much work he did on the cutter, specifically the damage maps.
Yeah, he really pushed it forwards on that, actually.
He was like, the cutter is going to look really good when it's destroyed.
Yeah. So like,
I'm not sure that's the selling point.
yeah, and that's what I mean by impacts our pipelines and.
Yeah.
and
It's
planning going
tech debt,
forward.
basically. And I mean, that's the natural part of being in a project that's creating new features, right? Is, the ships we made several years ago, they're not necessarily going to be fully compatible with these new features we drop. Yeah. So, that is tech debt. And that's sort of a part of development, right? And basically, we just had to triage the ships and be like, these ones are, ooh.
That happens with every game. It's just not every game happens to be running a live environment right in the middle of this development.
Yeah.
So it's not seen when it happens at every other game. We're just kind of like,
Yeah.
here it is.
Usually you have to pay off the tech debt before the game comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually.
And there's good kinds of tech debt, and then there's kinds of tech debt that you can avoid, right? But I mean, things like salvage, like, we want the damage to look good anyway, so it's a pass that.
Yeah, the salvage work that necessitated all this was built off the damage system, which we introduced with the Gladius.
So a long
I don't
time
know,
ago.
2015.
2015, 2016. And that system hasn't really changed since then. And it looked good for damage. Like when you're shooting another ship with a spaceship 100 meters away and you see the burn and the glow and everything come on. And when we looked at salvage, it was like, we've got a system, it works.
Yeah.
But then when you pressed your face up against it,
Yeah,
scraping
salvage
it with
device.
a thing,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, actually, this technically works,
Yeah.
but it's
Not
not to the
to our
standard we
standards.
want. So.
I think as well, like as we've, over the years, just, you call it rot or just changes and stuff like, damage maybe hasn't been scrutinized as much because it hasn't needed to. And then when a feature like salvage is coming up, then we sort of need to take stock of where everything is now and review it again and be like, these ones probably want a bit of love, right? And then there's some that you're like, that'll work, But it's not all going to be perfect for Tier 0 salvage with hull scraping, but it will all work, as a feature, and
It will look better.
I was going to say,
and it'll
you
look
heard it
great
here, Corey Bamford. It'll all work.
for the most
If it
part.
doesn't work, you can send your letters to Corey
Okay,
Bamford.
the ship damage will, for the
Don't
most
even
part.
make
Wait,
that
hold on.
claim.
Yeah.
Ship damage, you mean the visual damage?
visual-
I keep having to correct this.
The
visual damage.
The visual damage will all mostly work.
Mostly work.
Yeah, and the shaders had a bit of love, and we've created some new textures for it as well. So there's a little bit of visual polish that will
Less
benefit
tinfoil.
damage as well.
Yeah.
Less tinfoil. Cause
Less
they all-
tinfoily damage is now kind of it. Yeah.
On the plates.
Yeah, Dan's done a great job on the team of kind of, we've got issues that were ship specific, which means we have to touch every ship, and then we've got improvements we can make that are like ship wide, and the new shaders
Yeah.
and the texture improvements and stuff that we've done kind of like affects all ships in one go. So that's a nice, good, win. It's like I say, there is going to be cases where you salvage part of a ship and you might see a bit poking through, and it's like, well, it's still fun. It's still fun. Yeah.
We did our best.
Yeah.
I really want to try
and
the
then I guess
salvage system.
We've done some work on resource management, and that's kind of like, we're in like prototyping phases and kind of getting stuff in and working.
And it relates to the hammer.
Yeah, but we're not at the point yet where that's like actively rolled out across ships, and we haven't done a big pass and stuff. We're kind of like early days with that stuff.
There's nice when they pass on it.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, on the art side.
The only side that matters.
sound like nothing.
Yeah. I think have I missed any?
I think that's all the ones we can talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, the ones that we can't talk about, you'll learn more about next week on ISC and towards the end of the year and into early next year. There's some cool stuff. We're just about out of time at this point. We've talked a lot about spaceships, the process of making spaceships, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, stuff like this. Why? I want to we'll go back to what's normally the first question here.
It's an existential question.
I want to ask you guys
talk about
personally.
spaceship stuff?
I want you guys to talk personally. You're not as representatives of CIG or your teams, but as you personally. Why do you make spaceships? This game, there's a lot to this game. It's not just spaceships. But why? What drew you to spaceships? Why do you stay in? Why did you leave props to go to spaceships? Why don't you leave spaceships to go make something else? Like why spaceships?
They're so complex that, but for me personally, they're all so complex. Every single one feels like it's a puzzle that needs to be solved, and solving that puzzle for me is really satisfying. To put it bluntly.
So full of shit. Man. No, that's a good answer.
Crazy guys.
It's why I like doing the layouts of ships so much. Does it make sense to put a corridor there? Why does it not make sense to put a Jeffrey's tube in anything? Why does this ship need a rework?
We're going to talk about Jeffrey's
Entire episode
what else?
about it.
For me, it started a very long time ago at my former job at a former company, and I was sat there one day, and a colleague reached out to me and was like, I'm working on this project with someone I can't talk about, and he's trying to put a 1 kilometre long spaceship in our engine with a full interior. That's impossible. There's no way that could work. And he's like, well, here you go, here it is. I was like, oh, it is possible. Cool, this seems like a fun thing. And then some months passed, and then I ended up here.
Only 1 kilometre.
Only 1
At
kilometre.
that time.
As an old backer of the game, long before I worked here, for me, it goes back to just the sense of adventure of going to space. Like that's a very fundamental driving feeling behind being interested in spaceships. And then the second level, which makes Star Citizen particularly interesting to me, is that I'm also a physics nerd, and the realism and physicality of the game and how things work is just unbelievably satisfying. So you get this double hit of sense of adventure and wonder of going to space with this feeling that it's oh, this can actually work. And it's just so satisfying. It just feels really good.
Awesome.
You, Roy?
Yeah. I mean, I've been a long time fan of sci-fi and space games and space stuff, and coming to this company was a really exciting opportunity for me, and I had a really great time working on props and weapons. To be honest, I'd been on the props team for a very long time, and I kind of fancied the change when this opportunity presented itself to me. And I've always really admired visually the spaceships in the game and how they work functionally. I find it just amazing. So for me, it was, a chance to sort of renew my passion in a way. You know what I mean? Like when you've been doing the same thing for quite a long time, you're like, don't get me wrong, I love props and that team was so fun to work with. But I think starting something new again, it's exciting, Like I feel like I've got a lot of challenges and things I need to learn again, which is a feeling I sort of haven't felt for a while, if that makes sense. So,
Getting very wholesome here, aren't we?
I love how I get a little comment, but Corey doesn't for his heart to heart.
Oh, I was about to jump on him.
All right.
How about you?
Oh, they're just the best looking thing in the game, aren't they? I mean, I'm pretty simple in that way. Just,
Going in with the bold statement straight out the bat.
I think it's a personal opinion.
Environment team's waiting outside the door.
Ian,
This
he's
poor
on the
guy.
8th floor. Yeah. You find him upstairs.
I think for me, I grew up, like I say, like watching Red Dwarf on VHS like over and over, and then watching Star Trek and Star Wars, and I think like you said, that sense of adventure is a big draw for the project. Like when I first kind of saw what Star Citizen was, I was making like racing games and that side of things, and the vehicle art was inspiring as one thing, but I think I am not lucky enough that I think I will make it into space. So this is as kind of close as I can get. Like my kids,
Me
they
too.
might, like if they're lucky, I don't think I'm quite there, unfortunately. So getting that kind of that.
So our game Star Citizen helps.
Star Citizen for me is a game that I really want to play, and I want to have that exploration and playing Star Wars Galaxies and
Yes.
those sort of other games that
Awesome.
do MMOs and exploration, and that to me is just a huge driving factor, the exploration of the unknown. And also I told my sister that I was going to go and make spaceships, and she thought I was going to go and make spaceships, real ones. And I'm like, no, Sammy, I make video games. I do not go from making cars in racing games to actual real life spaceships. Apart from
Some
You
people
shouldn't have corrected her.
people do.
Just
The
let
amount
her-
of-
They are real life spaceships.
The amount of people that contact me on LinkedIn thinking that I am actually
I'm working
making
at SpaceX.
real vehicles.
Oh, the amount of emails I get from LinkedIn, people saying, "Hey, you should make." He goes, "Would you like help making marketing videos for your product?" And I'm like, "What do you think I do?" All right. So last question. We always ask this at these things. If you could add one spaceship to Star Citizen, that spaceship that we haven't yet added yet, that you want personally for the game.
Skip it, figures
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is your chance to pitch John Crew right now on camera. What would it be? Corey, we'll start with you.
Oh, why'd you start with me? I haven't decided yet.
Just imagine a countdown clock going down in the back.
Yeah.
no pressure.
Why were you doing this to me? You're psyching me out now. Oh,
I didn't get to jump down your throat like I did Mark, so this is
yeah, fair enough.
I guess is it spaceship or vehicle?
spaceship or vehicle.
I quite like non-combat ships, so I think just like I really like the idea of the colonizing ships, like the naming.
Pioneer.
Yes, Pioneer. Something like that. I think would
Yeah.
be pretty sweet.
Me too.
How about you, Mark?
I want to make, well, I'm going to keep pitching to John the idea of us making a giant ground vehicle base. That's what I want to see in game, so I'm going to keep asking John.
Is this
for
a
it.
movable base?
Yeah, a giant ground vehicle moving base.
Yes.
So like, think like a giant tank that has 3 floors on
Like
it.
a total Mad Max kind of,
Yeah.
you know, like a whole facility.
That is cool.
Call it the Rolling Thunder.
The
What was
Rolling
that film came
Thunder.
out recently that was the...
He's asking for
Mortal
names
City
already.
Mortal Machine.
Mortal Machine. It's like Mortal Machine style.
Doesn't even
giant
exist yet.
Cool.
Base. That's what I want.
It's cooler than mine, I think.
Very
like
cool.
an outpost on wheels.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Dave?
So I don't know how the artists might enjoy working on a ship like this. However, I love the idea that exists in some sci-fi worlds of organic ships that are organic creatures and move in weird, strange ways, and are animated very fluidly and like smoothly. The sense of like wonder and, you know, strange newness from
I don't
that
need
is
that.
just appeals to me.
Nah,
And I'd like to see something like that out there. For
not
There's
really.
definitely space for more alien
Yeah.
ships in our universe.
Yeah.
The living organic ship, like the Cobra Law, you know, from the old G.I. Joe movie. The
Something like
original movie, the good one.
Yeah.
Ben, what you got?
Ship or something.
I think two or only one. all right.
No.
Okay, one.
You're special.
All right. So two. I'd like to do like a traditional space rocket, just because I think it would just be cool, right? Like proper circles on the side of it, big thrusters, takes off vertically, be cool. But I've never seen space sweepers and like their junker ships. Like for me, that's what our universe is missing. The ability to like it's not a manufacturer, and I've been harking on about how important manufacturer identities are and everything. It's not a manufacturer. It is people that do live in the kind of like the
Duct
deep
tape
remote
together.
areas. Yeah. Like you do get a duct tape and
Scrappy challenge style.
Scrappy challenge style, you know it. And I think like a ship that people have passed down through generations has been cobbled together with whatever they can find, and it might see a station once every 10 years, and it's really sort of
Someone's
unique
home.
and homely, and it has a personality of itself.
That's cool.
All right, you, Henry.
Wallace and Gromit ship. Going for it.
What does that even mean?
You sat quietly for an hour just waiting. The second I came in, it was like, Wallace and Gromit. Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, you mean like the classic? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'm on the same page.
the one from Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure if you ask Spaceman, he can draw you a concept for it.
Is
Yeah,
this like
yeah.
the kind of ship that a 7-year-old would draw if you're like,
Yeah.
draw a run?
It's a
That's the
strong
Wedge
shape.
cheats.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely a Harry
it's a
ship.
bold
Yeah,
design.
Harry ship.
Yeah,
Bold
I'm in.
design.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
Oh, Jared, what about you?
Oh, me?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But,
One that's not on the backlog.
Or
no.
or jalopy.
John already knows this. It's I want the thing that I want is I want the old space jalopy. I want a ship that isn't sold. You can't buy it in a store. You can't pledge for it. Nothing. It's the old Hulk that you have to find and that you have to repair.
Yeah.
Basically, you have to go on a 28.
This sounds cool.
Mission, through 13 different planets.
Good
and
idea.
locations and find the parts and basically reassemble this thing. And what you've got is not the fastest and not the most capable or anything. It's an old 200, 300-year-old spaceship. But when you're done, like it's a status symbol. It's a thing. It's like I put in the work, I put in the time, and it's a collector's item, and it's restored. It's like an old classic car.
You ever played WoW? It's the Violet Protodrake.
Huh?
You ever played World of Warcraft? It's the Violet Protodrake. You've been there, you've seen everything, you've done all the experiences, and at the end of it, this is what you've got.
Sure.
You want people to know you spent 800 hours doing questions to get this less than optimal ship.
Yeah, but then because it's because when
It's
people
his
do the
ship.
when people do the
It is his
restorations,
less
though,
than optimal
they're all restorations are always different. Like every '57 Chevy is not exactly alike and stuff. So then there would be some variations. Like it's like you got the blue door and you got the and stuff like that. Like that's what I would like a quest line ship. Something that you have to pursue and develop.
Unique
through
to you.
gameplay. And the
I can
rules.
definitely get behind that.
Yeah, that's unique to you.
We come to
I
John.
I suppose I was like, you can make whatever ship you
John
want.
is fair. He just gives us a
Aside
brief
of
and
my
we
own
have to do it.
For me, it's sort of like Ben's. Like I want to do either the original Zeus or like an Asperia revision, which
Yes,
people don't
the
know.
Zeus.
It's
Oh
the
man,
first RSI ship that could do
Yes.
a quantum jump, had a quantum drive.
yes.
I think they were notoriously unreliable. So there's a lot of them.
But
just
that would be a
scattered
great
around
ship.
The universe.
Yes.
We could combine the ideas. What if we combine the ideas,
But,
John?
but it's just a really cool visual. Like it's like the old space plane.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what if it's restoring old Zeus
pieces.
jalopies?
Could
I think
be.
I'm on this team
So
now.
cool.
Sounds better than mine.
Yeah, you have to go down to a desert planet, find just like a random panel.
And you
of
go-
it
yeah,
that's
like
abandoned.
Yeah, that's my point.
panel at a time.
You have to salvage
Using all the different game places, using salvage, using scanning,
Repair.
everything.
So cool.
There's a bit at the bottom of every cave.
You know, some parts have to be manufactured. They don't make them anymore, so you have to go through manufacturing gameplay in order to.
But you have to find the original blueprints that are some abandoned.
And you have to
old
mine this
facility or
material to
derelict.
get it. You know, it can be a thing that ties everything else.
Well,
So,
Yeah.
is
like
that
that
next brief,
next.
John?
Let's go.
Right, get that one started.
And that's about it. Thank you for hanging out with us for the time being. Star Citizen Live, the IAE 2952 All Ship Spectacular. I don't remember what name I came up with at the beginning. I should start this stuff earlier. Remember, if you haven't check out Inside Star Citizen yesterday, where we revealed the Drake Cutter, the newest starter ship. And the first from Drake Interplanetary, sponsors of this year's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, which should be going on right about now, or if it hasn't launched yet, it probably launched by the time the show is over, whatnot. I don't have anybody to talk to right now to find out. And then remember, IAE goes on all this week and into next week. We'll be back with Inside Star Citizen next week, talking about some new ships that are coming to the Persistent Universe through this year's IAE, so you want to check that out for Star Citizen Live. That was John, and that was Dave, and that was Corey, and that was Ben, and that was Mark, and that was Henry. And if you know me at all, that was an amazing thing that I got through all 6 hours once without an ounce of hesitation. Take care, everybody. See you next week.
All right. Pretty good. And I just got
Jeffrey's tubes. What's
What's
going on
wrong?
with Jeffrey's tubes?
Right, so
Oh my
that's an ongoing debate. The problem is they take a huge amount of space up on
They
the
don't.
ship.
There's-
They do. They take
no,
massive
there
amount
is
of space
there
up.
is
Look at the Star
plenty
Runner.
there is plenty of space in our ships to fit Jeffrey's
If we
tubes.
increase
Depending
the
on the ship,
exterior by 50%.
depending on the ship, depending on the ships, there is
Very
plenty of space.
Rewind a second.
The Starlifter,
What are
they
you actually
fit.
talking about?
Jeffrey's tubes.
Engineering tubes, engineering tunnels.
Oh.
So,
Fool around,
Oh.
press all the
Right.
little things
yeah,
in
rather
the...
than, you got to go and fix your
I
relays.
thought this was some reference to Jeff, the designer.
No, this is a Coffin thing. You've seen
named
Star
after
Trek, right?
Oh my gosh, Dave.
You've seen Star Trek, right?
When they're crawling around in a little tunnels
Yeah,
and then...
whenever there's-
yeah,
whenever
yeah,
the
yeah.
turbo lets
Yeah, I want to have more Star
Relays,
Trek in the game.
Surprise, this
Yeah.
is
I want to have more Star Trek in the
Wow.
game.
Yeah, it's like
I
the
love Star
underbelly.
Trek. What about you guys? You like Star Trek?
Star Runner, we
Or
implemented
you like Star Wars more? I like Star Trek.
There was nothing down there to do.
There's so many ideas in Star Trek they did not bring into the game yet.
You're going to put all the components in these tubes.
So
But then you
that's
can't
the
get the
thing.
components
We
out the
offered,
tubes.
But it depends on the size of the component. The relays we could put down the tubes.
You could totally
but then
do
you'd
that.
have to crawl into the secret Jeffrey's
That's why they're
tubes
there.
to fix the relay.
Yeah, that's why they're there. They're there so you have to go somewhere. They're like, oh no, I got to go
But it
into the
literally
deep
moves
underbelly.
Jerry's
the
like,
idea of
"Shut
a good
up, guys."
layout. People don't like them
How do you know?
because they constantly complain about them.
That's because the Star Runner one's great.
Exactly.
But we can do better. Like we can learn from
But,
that. And do better.
or for that same amount of thing, they can have a bedroom that's twice the size, has twice as many things in them.
Anyway,
We could add an entire facility.
I think they're done. I want to go quickly to Twitter. There's a really cool tweet right now. Came from Star Citizen. Home. Yes. Where is it? Okay, man. Star Citizen. Ah, here we go. Something about pyro. Yes, look at this.
Dead. Just thought you should know.
Let's start from the beginning.
Obviously, I'm not dead.
He's not
Thought you
dead.
should know. Looks like we're going back to stat.
Huh?
Here we go. Okay. Ah,
Someone needs to pick him up.
throttles over here. Interesting. That does make a little bit more sense. Okay. Here we go.
Tuh.
Obviously, I'm not dead.
So, he has his own Twitter account, guys. I need to follow him.
Looks like we're going back to stat.
And let's
Here we
retweet.
go.
He's in Pyro. We need to pick him up. We need to pick him up.
Okay.
Awesome. Oh, my friend Ollie missed it. Sold out. Wow. Look at this. The Kraken is already sold out. Are you kidding me? All right, guys. I will be back soon. Making a quick break, and then I will be back and we will look at the Star Citizen store, the online shop, see what's available. There's a lot of things going on, and we will try with the CZU game app to find out what is the best way to get the Corsair, for example, for me. So, see you soon, guys. Thanks for watching. that was fun. So, ending soon. I have to click the button to end the stream.